I mean, my only goal in life, like they asked me when I was a child at school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, outrageously happy. And that was my only goal in life, was to be outrageously happy when I got older. I said, I don't care whether I'm in the gutter or whether I'm living in a castle. The darkness is pretty dark. It's pretty black. And if you're not prepared to see just how dark it is, you should never look into the shadow. I think there's a lot of healing that can be made if people are prepared to look into the shadow. I think it's people's refusal to look into the shadow which allows the shadow to persist. I think we are so disconnected from what we could be. We are so inactive from what we could be. I think the first goal is to encourage people to ask questions, ask the right questions. So they can make up their own mind as whether they're prepared to open that doorway to walk through and ask those questions. What is impossible? I mean, the only thing that's impossible is that which you believe is impossible. And most people have no idea of what is possible at all, because their entire belief system is centered around what they believe they know, which is what's taught to them, which is all left brain stuff. And it's got to fit within this little scientific box. And if it works outside that paradigm, you don't think about it, it's not possible. Well, the only thing that's impossible is that which you believe is impossible, and that's what makes it impossible, is your belief in that. So that's why I don't do belief. And why I've always had no stake in the outcome, I don't do fear. Reality will mirror things back to you. They've even hijacked all that, to the law of attraction. What you think about, you will manifest. How I became a radio host back in 2008 was because I had this incredibly profound experience in meditation one night, and I realized it was all an emotional mirror. So, our problem is that we create these goals and we have a stake in the outcome of these goals. We're taught to, this is our business sense. We've got to create these goals and get to these milestones. But mostly they're unrealistic. Mostly they're based on economic values and all the stuff which is wrong completely. And very often, people are, doing these goals in a business manner, and it's all about creating wealth in their lives. And they'll find that the more wealth they create, the more expenses they generate with it, and they live to their means all the time. Doesn't matter if you're making $100 a week or $10,000 a week, you're going to be spending $100 a week or $10,000 a week. Your lifestyle seems to change around your income, and people generally live to their means because that's the focus. Whereas I just don't think about stuff like that, and you'll find that you live in a natural state of abundance. You don't really want for anything. I mean, I don't have a lot, but I don't want for a lot because I don't need a lot. We misplace our values, and even the law of attraction and all this sort of stuff, it's been taken over from the law of mirroring, which is a more emotional language. They've tried to turn it into an intellectual language, and they've even taken terms such as abundance, and they've turned it into prosperity, which makes you think about finances. You prosper and get wealthy and rich, which that isn't wealth. True wealth is health and friends and companionship and having a safe environment. Happiness. This is wealth. And money doesn't buy that. People think it does. No, money buys you stuff, and big stuff, and big houses, and the bigger front door, and then you can feel that you're better than the neighbour, and all this division takes place, and people get jealous because you've got a bigger front door than them. It's crazy stuff. So, that's just, I've found the way you can live your life and just sort of get through it, is to have no stake in the outcome and realize you're speaking this emotional language and go with the flow and allow things to unfold. Don't have your goals too firmly set, because you may miss something along the way, some little sidetrack which is going to lead you somewhere that you didn't even expect, which is where you actually needed to go. So you've got to be careful on what these goals are. I mean, my only goal in life, like they asked me when I was a child at school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, outrageously happy. And that was my only goal in life, was to be outrageously happy when I got older. I said, I don't care whether I'm in the gutter or whether I'm living in a castle, as long as I'm outrageously happy. That, I think, should be the focus, happiness and improvement of the self and improvement of others, service to creation. There's only one law I've found, one law of creation, and that is unconditional love and service to creation. And that doesn't mean service to others at the expense of yourself. You've got to love yourself as much as you love others. You can't deplete yourself in the service of others. That doesn't work. You don't love yourself, you're not in service to creation. You're in service to others, which means you're a slave for no reward. So why would you do that? You've got to put everything on an even keel and respect yourself as much as you respect others, but don't respect them any less because you respect yourself. I think we are so disconnected from what we could be. We are so inactive from what we could be. I think the first goal, the first quest we should be on is to free ourselves from this system to be able to reactivate ourselves biologically and get our own biology, get back in control of our own biology. Then I think all of the answers will be clear. I don't think we will need to conduct such a search if we can simply come online. It's this mind that makes us do things we don't want to do and makes us ask questions about things we don't need to know and makes us search for answers in all sorts of places which are external to ourselves. And it would appear, and this is alluded to in many shamanistic teachings, that what this force likes to harvest from us is these aha moments that we have when we're searching. So, if you can not be surprised at what you find when you're looking for things and realize that the only reason you're looking down that rabbit hole, searching that particular field, is because you actually already know. And if you can look within, you'll find that you won't have those aha moments and you can free yourself of this predator mind. And when you can do that, things become clear in your head and amazing feats of knowledge and comprehension can be achieved just by matter of course, without really needing to search. If you're prepared to believe yourself and believe your intuition and listen to your intuition, you'll find that you already know a lot of things you're just not prepared to admit. And the big problem that we're facing here is a loss of self. There's been an underlying message through the whole lot for the last 10 or 12 years is to lead people back to themselves. It's about the rediscovery of the self. And I can't teach you who you are. I can't teach other people who they are. All I can do is help them discover that for themselves. You can't tell people the truth because they won't believe you. They won't listen. The only way to get people to the truth is to help them discover it themselves. It has to be realized. Real truth can't be told. It has to be realized. Encourage people to ask questions, ask the right questions. And I've kind of led them to certain doorways and, they can make up their own mind as whether they're prepared to open that doorway and to walk through and ask those questions and whether they're spiritually and emotionally and psychologically ready for the answers that they're going to find. Because the darkness is pretty dark. It's pretty black. And if you're not prepared to see just how dark it is, you should never look into the shadow. And that's why I don't just tell people things outright and make statements, outright blanket statements usually. Maybe I've slipped up sometimes and done that, but we all do. But it's mainly encouraging people to ask questions because it's a loss of self. That's the problem. That is only something that people can discover on their own if they're prepared to. I think there's a lot of healing that can be made if people are prepared to look into the shadow. I think it's people's refusal to look into the shadow which allows the shadow to persist. But it's an uncomfortable place for a lot of people to go because they have to admit that their life has been a lie, that it's been meaningless. They've been doing all this stuff which was completely meaningless and unnecessary. And that's been one good thing about this lockdown. Maybe people will realize just how worthless their jobs were and all this stuff they were doing that they really didn't need to do anyway. It was just all to take up time and collect paper. Perhaps there will be some sort of a spiritual enlightenment that comes out of all of this. But of course, tending to push it the other way. But if you were an all-powerful being such as God, you were just there by yourself, it would be a pretty boring existence by yourself. You'd want to do something. What if you shattered your consciousness into individual fragments so you could experience yourself to discover how you became God? Something like that. I mean, when you look at what this is, it's a collective manifestation of energy. Ultimately, at the very core, we're all energetic beings that come from a single source, which would be the field around you. If you really start looking into the nature of consciousness, you find it's not local to your body. It's simply harvested from the surrounding field. So you can imagine this as being essentially some form of biological computer mechanism that's fully autonomic, self-functioning, self-correcting, self-balancing, self-healing. All you got to do is put the fuel in it. It needs a consciousness to govern it. Where does that consciousness comes from? Well, within every body, there is a DNA which is unique to you, particular to you. That DNA is like an antenna that harvests a certain frequency from the field. We're at a very historical moment. We're at a pivotal point in history right now. I can't think of anything previously in any time in recorded history that I know of that has been as significant as what we're going through now, the type of change we're going through now. It's a huge opportunity for us, this whole lockdown, this whole implementation of this new world order system they want to bring in, this whole smart system. It's right in everybody's face now. And I think it's a huge opportunity for people to push back.